Mm-hmm. 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 Surprise, traders!
Let's
How
go.
we doing, guys? God bless each and every single one of you guys. I'm just playing around with glasses, but we're gonna get into stock ticker GameStop, GME, eBay, as well as AMC, and what we look to really dive into for Monday's open here. As you see, the markets open up for overnight trading. It's currently 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, but this, traders, is a little bit of the tinfoil we're going to get into in GameStop's GME's hostile takeover of eBay that we've been watching pretty closely. So if you guys find this stuff fascinating like I do, please slap the subscribe button, smack the like button. Let's get straight into it, guys. So Ryan Cohen posting multiple things, right? I'm selling stuff on eBay to pay for eBay. That's personally hilarious to me. But what's even funnier is he got banned off of eBay after really kind of teasing the board, right? Saying only in corporate America with a poop emoji. You can see eBay from 2020 to 2025 has been down 18% in active buyers. Operating income, a very important statistic, down 14%. And then operating expenses, right? So costs, up almost a third of the company, plus $1.1 billion, as CEO compensation also rises. And you see it at a total net $144 million cumulative. So that is very interesting, right? When you look at the stock of eBay, you can see this very bullish double bottom in this U-shaped accumulative pattern. You break the local range, which was your top back in 2021. You broke that, traders. You flagged out back here, and then you broke back above. Kind of had like a retest to an SOS, right, before you break out of this flag. And inevitably, right, this is actually really bullish for GameStop. Let me tell you why, right? GME currently owns 5% of eBay. So in trolling and doing all of this funny business, you're actually seeing eBay go on a monumental bull run, as I'm assuming, right, GameStop was buying somewhere along this bull run, averaging up, and then eBay has now gotten this pretty insane announcement, and you're seeing Ryan Cohen just bring home more money for the stock. So kind of brilliant in my opinion, and you've just now seen a breakout from eBay in the last 2 weeks after retesting this wedge or this bull flag, with the profit target from this being upwards of, depending on where you take it, right, upwards of about $135. So within the hostile takeover, there's debates. Can we do it? Can we not? I think it comes down to the shareholders, and that's what I find so fascinating, right? You would have had an outright no from eBay if this was not in any kind of contention, in my opinion. So the fact that you are getting just this beautiful bullish setup while the silence brews is, I think, speaks more words than words, in my opinion. Jumping into GME, though, you've seen a very similar chart, although not as bullish as eBay, right? Which is funny because GameStop's on this monumental run of cutting costs, expanding profitability, and zero CEO compensation. You have seen a flag breakout retest, and from that, you've kind of created a uptrend, right? You've made higher high, higher low, theoretically, right? You're going back to test this $26 level come Monday to Tuesday open, right? What's fascinating here is on this little bit of bounce, you've seen volume go down, which is typically bearish, right? You don't want to see this stock continue to tread up while this volume treads down. But this is really just coming off the back of the fact that we are waiting for any kind of clarity or announcement. You shouldn't see volume step in unless you get a monumental update on this, right? Latest updates, GME offered $55.5 billion to buy eBay at $125 a share, 50% cash, 50% stock, right? Fitty. eBay confirmed receipt. Its board will review the proposal and the stock component. Fascinating stuff on GameStop. On the macro, right, we talked about the monthly chart in which you broke out of your monthly RSI consolidation. And that was the biggest breakout on this chart, quite frankly, for the RSI. Since back here in 2024, when you crossed the RSI band and you saw a monumental run up of price from $9 all the way up to $80 in the after hours, right? From that, you saw consolidation, you saw higher high, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, before you finally broke out of that, right? And then you also crossed the RSI band. You've only crossed it 2 prior times, traders, or 3 prior times, which was here when you ran from 20 all the way up to 36, here when you ran from 9 to 80, and then back here, guys, which was your freaking squeeze, right? This was the beginning, the literal bottom, before you saw this insane move up. So there's a lot of signs here that the risk on appetite for institutions and retail traders is growing. And I think it's a matter of time before you see a lot of these stocks pop off, like AMC, Gamestop, BlackBerry, for example, right? We've just been looking at this recently. We covered it back here when you had this Adam and Eve double bottom, right? That's a pitch perfect Adam, sharp V line, and then a very cumulative structure, but you failed that breakout and made a more macro double bottom before you saw volume step into the stock, right? And really propel you higher. And now not only have you broken this local range, making the highest high since 2022, traders, but you're on the freaking mission, right? There's a very likely scenario in which next week you close upwards of the high 7s as you look to clear $7 and then go for this gap fill currently sitting at, what is that? Currently sitting at 852, traders. So that's what we're watching for on BlackBerry. But just to give you some risk on appetite, right? This is going to become very common, in my opinion, as you see a lot of these small cap stocks begin to squeeze, right? You're seeing a lot of the pressure build up, release here, and you can see it in the volume. Look at the volume profile and look at these stocks, right? That's insane. That is an insane upwards trend in volume after being pretty bleak, right? And although you could see this thing was absolutely set up in a very similar fashion to Neo, right? This is kind of the formation I expect from Neo. You just wait for the volume, but you saw a shoulder, head, right shoulder, and that is what we were calling for on this right shoulder, that this would be a perfect setup to break out. Just took a little bit more time. From that breakout, though, guys, you have a technical price target that's pretty insane, right? Your price target takes you upwards of $16. And you're getting the 50 curling up, the 200 curling up in a fashion that you will get a golden cross on the weekly for the first time since 2021 June squeeze, right? So you're seeing this pressure build on not just GameStop, not just BlackBerry, but also AMC. And we're going to talk about that, right? You see a monumental shoot up on AMC stock, upwards of 110%. From that, you saw a pretty nasty Bollinger Band squeeze come to fruition on the daily time frame. Volume peak towards the top, and then now you've really seen a volume regression. From that, you saw a little bit of Bollinger Band squeezing, right? The bands are consolidating. From that, you're also seeing a bounce off of this golden trend line that I would refer to as your bull market trend line, right? You'd want to hold this if this run is going to continue. If you lose it, right, there's a very strong possibility that you go back to double bottom at 144. And if you lose that one, traders, it will be a no bueno situation, as you have a gap fill currently sitting at 128 as well as 112. So if that happens, you may be looking at a little bit more of a wedge formation. In my opinion, you'd still be bullish, right? I don't have any questions about that, but you might be playing out something a little bit more lines with this, right? And that's okay. That might be a little bit more of a very more macro consolidation here before you see that next leg up. But it's in my belief, traders, from this bottoming formation that you're going to see that next leg higher. It's just a matter of when, in my opinion. It's just a matter of when, in my opinion, which is a change of pace, right? You've seen AMC really been annihilated, but you do have this gap fill on the weekly time frame at 112, which makes me believe that that's definitely a possible scenario. However, the volume profile looks so good here after seeing 1, 2, 3 volume bars decreasing, big pump, 1, 2, 3 volume bars up, 1, 2 volume bars down during the consolidation, and then now a boom week, hopefully followed up by another pretty crazy week here, as we have a lot to talk about. Right. This week is going to be very big for volume. You have a lot of things potentially coming to fruition. Ukraine coming to an end, eBay acquisition, Iran, US possibly coming to an end. So I expect some volatility here, even if it's not just to the upside. On the weekly time frame, though, we did talk about this inverted bullish hammer candle, as well as closing above the 9-day EMA being very bullish for the long-term trajectory. On the daily time frame, this outlines the gaps a little bit better for you in these two gray lines here. However, right, a double bottom here would not be the worst case scenario, as you do have the 50-day EMA literally sitting at 144. So that is a good outlook for AMC. Beyond that, we know the quarterly MACD looking absolutely schnasty, right? Closest it's come to crossing genuinely since 2021. And it is in my belief, with all of the upwards trajectory on this stock right now, that you are going to see the quarterly MACD come to fruition, which will be bullish for the macro of the stock. Hopefully in this level, time will tell, right? If you were going to get something like that, theoretically, that would be just insane. But that takes you straight up towards that $43 gap fill that we previously talked about being a very important macro test. There's a lot that would come before that, right? $13, $19, and then $43. But if you enter, truthfully, if you enter within this big red bar, that will act as a volume pocket in which, when you trade and you see this just very sharp move down, same way you see it when you move up, right? If price enters this stratosphere, you are going to go parabolic. Same way when price entered this and you broke the support here, you slid straight down and you lost all the gains. Same should happen in reverse if it came to it, right? So that is the most bullish scenario for AMC, and it's aided by the fact that you're trading significantly in a bullish manner, right? You're seeing higher highs, higher low, potentially another higher high coming. And if you continue to hold the 50-day EMA, it's in my belief you will see a golden cross if you're able to pass above $2. Now, the 200-day EMA, currently sitting at 201, the lowest we've seen it in AMC's history, makes that golden cross and that significant bullish cross much more likely and much more possible. So that's why I really like this setup on AMC, and I'll continue to cover it every single day. On the weekly time frame for the Bollinger Bands, let's see, Bollinger Bands. You're seeing a nice squeezing and honestly a hold test of that mid-band, which is a good sign for AMC. Now, the Bollinger Bands, in case you don't know what that is, a technical, not artifact, but a technical indicator made by John Bollinger. Yes, he's still alive, and he very much comments on Twitter. This was his last comment on May 6th. Yesterday, our trend model for Bitcoin turned positive, and we took a position now fully invested in BTC. Now, I'm not a financial advisor, can't tell you what to do, but the Bollinger Bands are a very, very good technical indicator to see if something is going to go parabolic, right? You want to see volume step into the stock. The Bollinger Bands will tell you pretty much when by showing you these extended periods of tight coiling, right? You can only pull a band so far before it snaps. And that's a good sign or a good example here, right? You had the bands tight, and then they expand. You went down very, very fast. A good example of that, again, right here. Tight, and then expansion, you dumped. We're hoping for the reverse of that. And oftentimes you see it in, what's a good example? Gamestop, right? Gamestop's a great example of when you get tightening on the weekend or on the weekly, and then expansion leads to these big moves up. That's a good example of the reverse of that, tightening, and then a dump further down to the bottom of the band. And the important part of this is oftentimes you see the upper bands and the mid band and the lower band all act as critical support. So that's what I really, really like about the Bollinger Bands. So we'll continue to watch them for GameStop and AMC as you see the volatility begin to occur for these stocks. Beyond that, traders, there's not a whole lot to talk about, but I just want to give you guys, I want to stop by and give you guys that update. If you guys find value in this kind of stuff, please slap the subscribe button. And of course, smack the like button. That way the algorithm can push this channel. We're upwards of, 1,659 subscribers. So we're on the road to 2K. It'd mean a lot if you guys get us over the hump. So that's all I got for today. Hope you guys are having a wonderful weekend. God bless you and your families. And remember, traders, the best is yet to come. Peace.